Throughout history, some crimes have remained shrouded in mystery, puzzles that even the best detectives and investigators couldn't solve. In today's video, we're diving into 5 of the most chilling and unexplained murder cases that continue to baffle experts and haunt the minds of true crime enthusiasts. From eerie crime scenes to suspects that vanish into thin air, these cases will leave you questioning everything. Let's get started. The murder of Jill Dando, 1999, London, England. On the morning of April 26, 1999, one of Britain's most beloved television presenters, Jill Dando, was brutally murdered on the doorstep of her home in London. A single gunshot to the head, in broad daylight, in a quiet, affluent neighborhood. A shocking crime that remains one of the most mysterious unsolved murders in British history. Who killed Jill Dando, and why? Jill Dando was more than just a journalist. She was a national treasure. The Golden Girl of British television, best known for her work on the BBC's Crime Watch, a show dedicated to solving real-life crimes. Ironically, she would become the subject of a crime so chilling, so perplexing, that even the brightest investigative minds could not crack it. Dando was at the height of her career, engaged to be married, no known enemies. So why would anyone want her dead? It was just before midday when Jill arrived at her home in Fulham, West London. As she placed her key in the lock, a figure approached from behind. Before she could react, a gun was pressed to her temple. A single bullet was fired, precise, execution style. Her lifeless body slumped against the front door. And then, silence. It was a clinical assassination. No one saw the shooter. No CCTV footage. No fingerprints. Just Jill Dando, lying motionless in a pool of blood, found by a neighbor 15 minutes later. London was in shock. The media erupted with speculation. A professional hit? A crazed stalker? Or something even more sinister? Theories spread like wildfire. Barry George, a local loner with a history of bizarre behavior, was arrested and charged with Jill Dando's murder. The police claimed to have found a single speck of gunpowder residue in his pocket and a fascination with guns. But there was no direct evidence linking him to the crime. No eyewitnesses, no forensic proof, just circumstantial suspicion. Barry George was convicted in 2001 and sentenced to life in prison. But something didn't add up. After serving 7 years behind bars, his conviction was overturned. The evidence against him had been weak. The truth? Barry George wasn't the killer. So, if not him, then who? Some believe Jill was assassinated by a professional hitman. At the time of her death, NATO had just bombed the Serbian media center in Belgrade. Could her murder have been revenge against the BBC for their coverage of the war? Others speculated that Dando was investigating a powerful pedophile ring within the British elite, and that she was silenced before she could expose the truth. The deeper you dig, the darker it gets. To this day, Jill Dando's murder remains unsolved. The case is cold. No new suspects, no new leads, just a lingering question that haunts Britain to this day. Who really pulled the trigger? Perhaps we will never know. Perhaps the truth is too dangerous. Or perhaps the killer is still out there watching. The disappearance and murder of Elisa Lam, 2013, Los Angeles, USA. February 2013. A young woman checks into a hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Days later, she vanishes. No sign of a struggle. No clear suspects. Just gone. Then, weeks later, her body is found floating inside a water tank on the hotel's rooftop. How did she get there? And why does the last known footage of her send chills down the spine of everyone who watches it? This is the disturbing case of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, Canada. She had traveled alone to Los Angeles as part of a solo trip across the U.S. Like many travelers on a budget, she booked a stay at the infamous Cecil Hotel. The hotel itself has a dark history. Suicides, murders, and the presence of serial killers like Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker, once called this place home. But Elisa didn't know that. She checked in on January 26, 2013. She shared a room with other guests at first, but after complaints about her odd behavior, she was moved to a private room. Then, on January 31, she vanished. This is the last known footage of Elisa Lam. Elisa enters the elevator. She presses several buttons, but the doors, they don't close. She peeks out as if expecting someone or something to follow. Then she moves erratically. Her arms twist in unnatural ways. She steps outside and appears to talk to nothing. Many have analyzed this footage. Some say she's playing a game. Others suggest she's hiding from someone. But here's the disturbing part. The elevator remains open far longer than it should, almost as if it knows. Then, Elisa disappears from the footage. The elevator doors finally close. After her disappearance, police searched the hotel. No sign of Elisa. Then, guests started complaining about the water. That's when a maintenance worker made a gruesome discovery. He climbed to the rooftop, opened a water tank, and found Elisa's lifeless body floating inside. How did she get there? The hotel's rooftop was locked. The water tanks were heavy with no easy way in. And yet her body was found inside with no obvious signs of trauma. The autopsy ruled it an accidental drowning. But was it really? Some believe she was experiencing a psychotic episode due to her bipolar disorder. Her family confirmed she had struggled with mental illness. But others question, was she running from someone? Could there have been foul play? The case only gets weirder. The way her death mirrors the plot of the 2005 horror film, Dark Water. The strange connection to a tuberculosis test named LAM Elisa, conducted in the area around the same time. And of course, the Cecil Hotel's history of death. Was it supernatural, a cover-up, or simply a tragic accident? The Cecil Hotel has since changed its name, but its history lingers, and so does the mystery of Elisa Lam. Perhaps we'll never know the full truth, but one thing is certain. This case will never stop disturbing those who dare to look into it. The killing of Bob Crane, 1978, Arizona, USA. June 29, 1978. Scottsdale, Arizona. A quiet desert town. Until the morning when housekeeping at the Winfield Apartments made a horrifying discovery. Inside room 132, Hollywood actor Bob Crane lay dead. His skull crushed, a cord wrapped around his neck. To the world, Bob Crane was a household name. The charming, quick-witted Colonel Hogan from the hit sitcom Hogan's Heroes. But behind the scenes, his life was far from perfect. As his fame declined, Crane sought thrills elsewhere, spiraling into a life of sex addiction, voyeurism, and seedy encounters, all facilitated by one man. His closest friend, John Henry Carpenter. June 29, 1978. Housekeeping entered room 132A, expecting an empty bed. Instead, they found Crane's lifeless body sprawled across the mattress, blood pooling beneath his head. The cause of death? Blunt force trauma. His skull shattered by an unknown object. The killer had been meticulous. No sign of forced entry. No murder weapon. Only a strange electrical cord wrapped around Crane's throat. But that wasn't what killed him. Bob Crane's closest friend, John Henry Carpenter, was an electronics expert. He introduced Crane to the underground world of homemade sex tapes. The two often filmed their encounters with women without their knowledge. But on the night of June 28th, something went terribly wrong. Witnesses claimed Crane and Carpenter argued over something that night. Perhaps their secret was about to unravel. Detectives found blood smears in Carpenter's car. But this was the 1970s. DNA testing wasn't advanced. The evidence was inconclusive. If Carpenter wasn't the killer, who was? Some believed Crane's lifestyle finally caught up with him. Had he recorded the wrong person? A jealous husband? A vengeful woman? Others believed Crane was about to expose secrets. Secrets that certain people wanted buried forever. It wasn't until 1992, 14 years later, that Carpenter was arrested and charged with Bob Crane's murder. But by then, the blood evidence had degraded. The jury found him not guilty. Carpenter maintained his innocence until his death in 1998. The case was officially unsolved. In 2016, cold case detectives used modern DNA testing on the blood found in Carpenter's car. But still, nothing conclusive. To this day, the murder of Bob Crane remains one of Hollywood's most disturbing mysteries. Was Carpenter guilty, or did someone else get away with murder? The only person who truly knows is long gone. JonBenet Ramsey, 1996, Colorado, USA. December 26, 1996. A quiet morning in Boulder, Colorado. A mansion wrapped in Christmas lights. But inside, a nightmare. JonBenet Ramsey, 6 years old, gone. A little girl with a pageant smile, found lifeless in the basement. The mystery of her death still lingers like a ghost in the walls of that house. A ransom note, a broken window, a frantic 911 call. But none of it adds up. What really happened in the Ramsey home that night? At 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey called 911, her voice trembling. Her words were panicked but specific. "We have a kidnapping." The note demanded $118,000, a curious number, the exact amount of John Ramsey's work bonus. But the kidnappers never called. There was no forced entry, and the body, it was never taken. 7 hours later, JonBenet was found, not by police, but by her own father. Her body cold, her wrists bound, duct tape across her mouth, a crude garrote embedded in her small neck. Not the work of a random kidnapper, but something far more sinister. The Boulder Police Department fumbled the investigation, contaminated evidence, an unsealed crime scene. The house should have been locked down, but instead, friends and family wandered through it like guests at a macabre dinner party. Then came the contradictions. John and Patsy's versions of events didn't match. The handwriting on the ransom note, almost identical to Patsy's. The strange, undisturbed cobwebs near the so-called entry point, suggesting no one had ever crawled through. And then there was Burke, her 9-year-old brother, eerily calm, eerily detached. Was it shock? Or was it something else? Theory 1, an intruder. A predator slipped inside that night, unseen and unheard. But where were the footprints? Where was the evidence of struggle? Theory 2, the Ramseys themselves. A staged kidnapping gone wrong. A cover-up. A mother desperate to protect a son, or a father desperate to bury a family secret. The autopsy revealed something disturbing. Chronic injuries, signs of past trauma. And then there's theory 3, something darker, something unspoken. A theory whispered in the shadows of the internet, suggesting the Ramseys were part of something much larger. Something ritualistic, something unholy. Years have passed. No arrests, no justice. DNA evidence pointed away from the Ramseys, then back again. The case is like a carousel of nightmares, spinning endlessly. Who killed JonBenet Ramsey? Was it a stranger, a family member, or something much worse? The truth remains buried in that house, behind police failures, behind secrets that may never be spoken. But one thing is certain: monsters hide in the strangest places, even under the Christmas tree. The Hinterkaifeck Murders, 1922, Germany. Hinterkaifeck was home to the Gruber family, Andreas, the strict and often cruel patriarch, his wife, Cecilia, their widowed daughter, Victoria, and her two children, little Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. Living with them was their maid, Maria Baumgartner. The farm sat alone, surrounded by dense forests, silent fields, and something sinister lurking in the shadows. In the days leading up to the massacre, strange occurrences plagued the family. Andreas found footprints in the snow leading toward the farm, but none leading away. He heard footsteps in the attic, but upon searching, found nothing. A newspaper appeared on their doorstep, one no one had bought. The keys to the house vanished without explanation. The family dog barked endlessly at unseen threats. And then, the maid fled. She had complained the house was haunted. March 31st, 1922. The Gruber family went about their day, unaware that a presence had already seeped into their home. Waiting. That night, under the cloak of darkness, something unspeakable happened. One by one, Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, and young Cecilia were lured into the barn. There, they were met with an unimaginable fate. The murder weapon, a mattock, an old farming tool with a sharp, brutal edge. The killer brought it down upon their skulls, splintering bone, spraying blood upon the hay-covered floor. But the horror did not end there. After slaughtering the 4 in the barn, the killer entered the home. Maria, the new maid on her first night, was sleeping soundly. A single blow to the head. She never saw it coming. Then the murderer crept toward Joseph's crib, a 2-year-old child, sleeping peacefully. He too was silenced forever. But the most horrifying detail? The murderer did not leave. Days passed before the crime was discovered. Neighbors grew suspicious when the family failed to show up for church. A search party arrived at the farm, and what they found would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The bodies, stiff with rigor mortis, lay grotesquely in the barn. Young Cecilia's hands were clenched in tufts of her own hair, suggesting she had still been alive for hours, suffering. The house smelled of rot, but food had been eaten. The livestock had been fed. The chimney still smoked. The murderer had lived there for days after the killings. Authorities were baffled. There were no clear motives, no solid suspects. Theories ranged from an unknown drifter to a twisted revenge plot. Some whispered that Joseph was not Andreas' grandson, but his own son, the product of an incestuous relationship with Victoria. Did someone discover this dark secret? Did they come seeking justice? Or was this merely a bloodthirsty killer's twisted fantasy played out in real life? Over 100 people were questioned. The farm was torn down in 1923, but the mystery of Hinterkaifeck lingers in the air, unsolved. Some believe the killer was someone close to the family. Some think the culprit escaped into the night, never to be seen again. And others say he stayed hidden, watching, waiting. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of the most horrifying and perplexing crimes in history. A farmhouse turned slaughterhouse. A family torn apart. A killer who vanished into the night. Perhaps somewhere out there the answer still waits. But for now, the farm is silent. And those were 5 of the most mysterious murder cases that remain unsolved to this day. Which one do you find the most chilling? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into true crime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay curious and stay safe.